Get it, boys.
Ladies and gentlemen, the boys are back in town. It is season 2 of HTF Bets. The three amigos are here today. We are going to discuss a wide range of topics, but man, it has been over a month. A lot of things have happened since we last been together. We're obviously now in a new fantasy and fantasy basketball, which we're going to talk with in a moment. But let me first wish a happy new year to each and every one of our viewers. And, of course, to Robert and Nick. Nick, I want to start off with you, man. I mean, Tampa's in the NFC Championship game. 2021 starting off pretty good for you, man. How you feeling today?
Doing good. As you said, 2021 has been a great start with that win by the Bucks. It's been great for Tampa sports, and I'm excited to dive into that today.
Absolutely. We're going to get into the NFC and AFC Championship game in a minute in preview. Robert, not so hot start. Obviously, your Rams got eliminated by the Packers, but the Lakers are off to a good start. How are you feeling? How's 2021 been so far to you today?
Yeah, it's definitely been better a lot. Well, I shouldn't say a lot better than 2020 for sports because the Dodgers and the Lakers won. But yeah, like you said, the Lakers are off to a good start this season. Rams, let me down, but I expected at this point. So I'm doing well other than that, though. I'm happy to be back.
Hey, you're faring no better than me with my Steelers, but that's a conversation for another day. And then our first-time guest today, talking basketball. Ladies and gentlemen, he's amigos with us, but he's new to the party. So let's introduce him well. Let's give a HTF Bets best welcome to Austin Walker. Austin, welcome, man. How you doing today? It's glad to have you on.
Thanks for having me. Long-time listener. Just excited to talk fantasy basketball today.
Yeah, absolutely. So speaking of fantasy basketball, as we all know, the three amigos and the co-hosts have put on together a fantasy basketball league. Things have been very different, though, on this fantasy round. In fantasy, I was off to a bad start in football, but in basketball, I'm 2-0. I got my first dub of the year against Nick, so I finally got something against him now. Things are going good with my matchup this week against Johnny Jackson. But, Robert, let's talk about your team, man. I mean, it's pretty up and down right now, but how you feeling so far with the season going on?
Honestly, even though I'm off to the season kind of slow, I'm 0-2 in fantasy. Like I'm putting up like the second or third most points every week. So my team is putting up points, but just as I've already matched up against Austin, I've matched up against Sean from the host of Almost Game Day. They've just scored more points than I have. So they're putting up a ton of points, even when I am. So it's not like I'm losing by like a huge margin. It's just kind of like it's coming down to the wire with a lot of points. So I'm kind of happy with my team still, even though I'm 0-2. There's a long way to go. Looking to come back a little bit against John Whitley. So hopefully I can make some ground and, hopefully I don't get off to a really bad start at 0-3. But I'm still satisfied with the team I got.
Trust me, I've been in the 0-3 club before too, so it's not very pretty. But on the other club is Nick. Even though he took a fresh hot L at Club Pena to start off the season, he balanced out well. Nick, your team has been dealing with some injuries, but you got John Morant back. I mean, you have a pretty solid squad, even though Laurie Mardikin's up and down. How are you feeling with your team so far in this early stage of the season?
Yeah, I went into it with a different philosophy this year, and that's just get power forwards and centers. Get power forwards and centers, and I've been riding it with Jokic and Christian Woods, Sabonis, Andre Drummond. As you said, I had some injury issues. Point guards have not been kind to me. Y'all went down right away. And then I had to deal with Markelle Fultz and Darius Garland. So I'm working with one point guard right now, probably for the rest of the season. But we're rolling with it, 1-1 right now. Have some ground to make up against Jarrett this week to get to 2-1. And I'm coming back for you, Okelo, because I'm sour taste in my mouth when you're beating me.
I didn't get you in football, but I surely got you in basketball, sir. But how about our newcomer, Austin, who's also in the 2-0 club? Austin, you're in club undefeated so far. Obviously, Kyrie Irving dealt with some issues. Hopefully you get him back. How are you feeling about the shape of your team so far this season?
Well, actually, now that you mentioned Kyrie, he's actually coming back to play tonight, and it's going to be interesting to see that now he's going to be playing with Harden and Durant. I'm just hoping he puts up the assists and steals numbers we're used to, and hopefully some points going in for some layups.
No, absolutely. I think now with Kyrie playing, it's going to be a difference of how this big three is going to work out. And actually, that's what I'm going to start off my first question with. Nick, I mean, the Nets made a big package to get James Harden. In terms of fantasy perspective, I mean, a lot of guys' numbers have seen an increase, and obviously we're hopefully going to see some changes in terms of the moves. I want to start off with the net. With Kyrie's coming back, I mean, James Harden has been putting outstanding numbers so far, and then Kevin Durant, he's likely going to be comeback player of the year, if not league MVP. In terms of fantasy implications, are you going to be concerned if you have either of these big three on your roster, or if you have DeAndre Jordan? I know I have Joe Harris. I'm going to be likely concerned about his minutes dwindling down. Should you be happy, or should you panic a little bit if you have any nets on your roster?
I don't think you panic at all. When you look at the caliber of a James Harden or Kevin Durant, they're going to get theirs no matter what. And it doesn't matter if Kyrie's on the court or not. And you've seen the way that Harden and Durant have played so far. I mean, Harden can put up a triple-double every single night that he wants. Durant can put up 30 to 40 every single night that he wants. I think Kyrie can slot right in there and put up, around 25, 7 and 5. I think he can do something like that every single night, and I think all three of them can do that. So I wouldn't have any concerns for those three. I would have a concern if you're really relying on a Joe Harris in your starting lineup. I'd have some concern there. Obviously, DeAndre Jordan is going to be counted upon to be down there by the rim. But in the new NBA, Kevin Durant's going to get his rebounds. James Harden's going to get his rebounds. So I don't think DeAndre Jordan is going to have much of an uptick in that department. So I have no concerns whatsoever. It's a team that I think is going to mesh so well, and I think you're going to see that when all three of them get on the court tonight.
It'll be interesting against Cleveland how it'll play out. Austin, you're a big Nets fan. Obviously, Nick mentioned all the key parts. Are you in the same boat? Do you feel like this is nothing to where any fantasy owner has to panic with ball distribution? Because you have legit three scorers on your team. I mean, we say what we want about James Harden. I mean, he's ball dominant. Kyrie's ball dominant. Kevin Durant can play the second tier. But are you concerned at all? Especially, I know you have Kyrie on your roster. Even if he misses some time again, are you at all worried?
Not really. I've been a Brooklyn Nets fan before the trade with Harden or when Durant and Kyrie got picked up. So this year, I've been really looking forward to. Harden said on his first game that the team chemistry in the locker room is already great. So I just feel like that's going to boost up the bench for the Nets, and they're going to still be putting out frequent, steady points.
Robert, we mentioned the Nets, but obviously the trade had other implication factors. We have Victor Oladipo in a surprise to the Rockets. Obviously, Jared Allen goes to Cleveland. Karis LeVert goes to Indiana, but he's going to be out for a while with the injury to his kidney. Which one of these newcomers do you think, in terms of a fantasy perspective, is going to be a major boost for their team?
Yeah, I mean, I would have liked to have said Karis LeVert. I mean, I know firsthand how many points Karis LeVert can put up on his own because I owned him before I had to drop him before the kidney issues. But no, I would have said Karis LeVert before this just because of how many points he was putting up now. You're probably still looking at Harden. I mean, while the distribution is going to be, pretty even between the three of them, especially because there is so much ball dominance and there's a lot of points to go around. Harden's still probably going to put up assists. He's going to put up points. He's going to drop 25, 30 a night. It's still James Harden. He's going to get those shots. Oladipo's an interesting one for Houston as well, just because, he's going to get a lot more time alongside John Wall in Houston with Harden gone. So, Oladipo can step up kind of like he was with Indiana and be, a major factor for Houston. So honestly, it's actually pretty even for these teams. I like the moves for all the teams. I like the Oladipo move for the Houston Rockets. I like the move for LeVert when he eventually comes back for the Pacers. And I do like the Harden move for Brooklyn, obviously. I think everybody kind of likes that.
What I am also interested to look at is with Cleveland now, with adding, Taurean Prince and, of course, Jared Allen. I mean, Cleveland already has a big in JaVale McGee who's playing very well, but we all know the capability of Jared Allen when he comes off the bench, and then Taurean Prince as well. So with Kevin Porter Jr. likely getting cut, I'm interested to see that. But as you mentioned, though, Robert, I mean, it's Victor Oladipo. I think this is a bona fide star. Granted, I'm disappointed to see him leave Indiana because I feel like their championship contendership kind of takes a little bit because now it's just a bunch of role players with no superstar. Granted, you have Malcolm Brogdon, Miles Turner, but he's dealing with an injury, which I'll get to in a moment. And, of course, Domantas Sabonis. But Oladipo should come in, play right away. I know he dropped 32 in his debut with the Rockets. So I'm looking for Victor to, no pun intended, take off with the Rockets and hopefully we'll get some production there. But speaking of the production, we all know that our teams could need some help. So, Robert, let me start off with you. We need some players that are not doing well and who are kind of lagging for our team. What's one player that you're dropping?
Well, I'm going to go personally here. Lou Williams, far removed this season so far from the former sixth man of the year. He looks terrible. Not putting up consistent points. He's had a few single-digit games in the past few weeks before he's been injured. He's missed, I think, the last 2 or 3 games now with injury. It's been a day-to-day decision. But no, aside from the injury issue, I mean, really, just before that, he'll go for a game where he'll drop 20, 30. I think he had a 40 within the last week. But no, I mean, a lot of single-digit games, and you can't have that. I mean, in a league where it's all about how many points you can put up day in and day out, it's very important to get a guy that can actually put up points. And Lou Williams historically has been that. You know, there's a reason he's been a former sixth man of the year. But right now, he's not looking like it. So for me, it was a very easy decision to drop him. Blake Griffin's a second. He's getting up there too. Blake Griffin's averaging over almost 35 minutes a night, and he's still not putting up a ton of points. So he might be cutting it close too. But for me, yeah, it's got to be Lou Williams.
Lemon Pepper Lou, he ain't ever been the same, Rob, that's for sure. And Blake Griffin, I wouldn't even mind that secondly. Austin, you're our guest, so I'll let you take the ball on this one. I mean, what's one player do you think that you have to drop in terms of fantasy perspective to get your team going again?
This is another real-time event like Rob. I dropped Marcus Smart this morning. He's been putting up in the teens and 20s, and there's just been other people on the waiver wire that I could pick up. So I'm hoping to pick up Malik Beasley Thursday.
That's an interesting wild card. I mean, look, Marcus Smart doesn't always give you the good production. I know the Celtics have dealt with their COVID issue, so that could be a reason lagging. But I'll say this, man, you better at least get a reserve or find somebody else to cut, because eventually Marcus Smart going to come back, him and Jason Tatum. That's a dynamic duo that's been killing it for the Celtics. So, Nick, one player that you are cutting.
I think if I had Lonzo Ball, I think I would sever ties with him at this moment. He's averaging 12, 4, and 4 this year, which, I mean, just not much improvement out of him. I keep waiting every single year. And his three-point shooting this year, I mean, he shot 37% from three last year, which is a 5% increase from 2018. And now he's all the way down to 28%. I mean, that's a 9% decrease right there in three-point shooting. And he's only shooting 38% from the field. So he can't add you anything from a scoring standpoint, and he's only getting 4 assists a game, which I find very odd on a team with Brandon Ingram and Zion Williamson and Eric Bledsoe, some other slashers and type of scorers like that, how you can only get 4 assists a game. It's really mind-boggling. And in the last 2 games specifically for Lonzo, he's got 12 points combined. 12 points combined. He wasn't good last night at all against Utah. I mean, he just has not been good at all recently. And, I mean, if you have his brother, I think you're in a way better spot at this moment. So, I would get rid of Lonzo if I had him at the moment.
Well, we all know that our resident John Whitley, Big Ballers Only, has both the Ball brothers. So I would look into that. After all, Lonzo has been dealing with injury. He's not been performing as well. So I would say this. So I would say for me personally, it's a toss-up. There's a lot of guys that I can mention. Obviously, Colin Sexton because of his injury, Michael Porter. But I'm going to stick to the bigs, and I'm going to go James Wiseman. I mean, he has had, I think, a rookie wall at this point. I mean, he played well against the Nuggets, but this is a guy that's only putting up in the teens right now. I think that there are plenty of other big options there. I think eventually later on in the season, he'll eventually get around the moments. I mean, Steph Curry even said it best. He used to get benched as well for when he wasn't playing well. I think it's going to take time for him, and hopefully we'll see it. But James Wiseman for me. And then for our last take, guys, real quick, Nick, I'll start with you. What's one player that you're adding off the waiver wire to boost your team this week?
Well, Austin kind of touched on it earlier. Malik Beasley was mine because he's averaging 20 points per game, 5 rebounds. He's getting solid, consistent effort, about 30, 40 points a night, which I think you can take for a guy that you can plug in on any night and get points. He's been very good with Minnesota, especially with Towns out right now. He's had a chance to step up, and he's kind of fending off Anthony Edwards from that Beasley right now.
No, absolutely. But first things first, of course, prayers up to Karl Anthony Towns. We hope he's getting better in his recovery. Austin, who's one player you're adding? I know, as Nick mentioned, Malik Beasley for you. Do you have any other players?
Well, I added, sorry, I got to look up his name again. Hashimaro from Washington to my IR because you dropped him actually, Okelo. And I feel like once he comes back, he could be putting up numbers.
I like Hachimura. I had to cut him. Unfortunately, the Wizards just haven't been playing games with their COVID issues, and obviously he's dealing with the injury setback. So I had to pump the brakes on him, but could be a steal for you. I'll hopefully still be winning at the same time. And then Robert, our resident Los Angeles Laker, are we going to add anybody, or are we going to add anybody from the second sister cousin Clippers?
Actually, I just added somebody. Once I dropped Lou Williams, a Clipper himself, I decided to pick up Derrick Rose. And Derrick Rose just came back from injury, had a stretch where he was injured, ended up getting dropped in that span. But to start the season, honestly, Derrick Rose, I thought, played really, really well. Flew under the radar a lot for a guy his age. He's playing consistent minutes. He's averaging about 24, 25 minutes a night. And since coming back the last 2 games, I think he's put up almost 40 one night, and the night before that he put up almost 60. So Derrick Rose is a guy that flies under the radar a lot, even at his age. I mean, there was a point when Derrick Rose was one of the best players in basketball, and now, he's in the twilight years of his career, but, he's still putting up consistent points, and he's a guy that can slot into your utility slot. He's getting the starting minutes. He can fit in your team, and you can find a place for him. So I really like having Derrick Rose on my team, and I'm hopefully he'll keep putting up those numbers for me.
The Rose is blossoming again in the Motor City. I like that, Robert. I mean, granted, I really didn't need him for a place on my team, even in my other league that I'm in, but I'm starting to maybe take a look back at it because other than him and Jeremy Grant, they're putting up numbers. And for my last one, I'm going to go a little off the wall here, as I mentioned with the Pacers. I'm going to look at one guy now who's, I think, going to get more minutes, especially when Miles Turner's out, Doug McDermott. Now, I know a lot of people may say, now, who's Doug McDermott? But he's been actually playing well in the slot. He's been actually getting high 20, 30-point games. The Pacers' offense is starting to really wrap around with some new ideas. Obviously, Justin Holiday's coming into the fray. But if I'm looking at the power forward, small forward position, I look at Doug McDermott to be a guy that I could potentially use. I think he's a guy that is going to fly under the radar. Who knows what happens when Karis LeVert comes back. But I like what I'm seeing so far. So if you have an opportunity, I think Doug McDermott's a good sleeper play to get you maybe a couple points within the week. And I'm liking everything because the Pacers are going to be racing to help you with your fantasy championship. But we're racing out of time. So, Austin, I'd like to thank you so much for coming on, chatting some fantasy basketball with us. We hope to have you on for future episodes, or maybe next week whenever you come take a fresh hot L at Club Pena. But coming up next, we got the NFC and AFC Championship bet lines, in addition with UFC 257 with Conor McGregor's return in the ring. Does Money Matt get it done, and does that mean more chance for your wallet? Stay tuned. HTF Bets will be right back.
Welcome back to HTF Bets, and now it is our time to turn into football. We have finally made it almost to the end. It is NFC and AFC Championship weekend, and we have got some great matchups. I think everybody here, regardless of fandom, would agree. Whatever the Super Bowl matchup is, I think we're ready for this no matter what. And real quick, we're going to go into the AFC right now. Obviously, we have the Bills and we have the Chiefs. The big storyline, Patrick Mahomes is in concussion protocol still. Andy Reid said he's doing better, but he still has some hurdles to climb before he can be approved to play. So what do we think, Robert? Do you think this is going to impact the Chiefs, and how big, and who do you have winning this weekend and why?
Yeah, so regarding Patrick Mahomes, if he plays this weekend, I favorite the Chiefs in this matchup. I think Buffalo is a really tough matchup for them. I mean, they got the offense this season. They have the defense, the top defense. But, as far as Mahomes playing, if he does indeed play this weekend, which I'd be very surprised if he doesn't, regardless of concussion protocol, I think the Chiefs are favored here for a reason. I think Chiefs can put up the points. They have the receivers. I think they're without Sammy Watkins this weekend, but you still got Tyreek, you got McCole Hardman, you got Le'Veon Bell. You got a lot of weapons there for Patrick Mahomes to use, and Chiefs have had a top offense this entire season. So as good as Buffalo's defense is, I think Buffalo will temper the storm a little bit, but I still think the Chiefs come out with a win here. If Mahomes somehow doesn't play because of concussion protocol and Chad Henne has to start, I think I might start favoring the Bills in that matchup because Chad Henne almost blew it against Cleveland. So, I think the Chiefs are the favorite here for a reason. I think they will. I think the favorite does match up well. I think, the Chiefs were my AFC pick to go to the Super Bowl pretty much the entire season. So I wouldn't be surprised if they make a return here in 2021 to the Super Bowl as they did last year. I think this is the Chiefs until proven otherwise. As good as Josh Allen has played, as good as Stephon Diggs has played, and he's played arguably like offensive player of the year this season, both of them really. I think the Chiefs do come out the victor, even with that pretty mediocre defense that the Chiefs put on the field week in and week out.
I'll come to you, Okelo, now. The Bills, Josh Allen has been throwing it all over the yard all year, arguably a top 3 MVP candidate. However, they have not really been running the ball of late at all. Still winning a lot of games despite not running the ball with Devin Singletary, Zach Moss, and those boys. But do they have to run the ball, or can Josh Allen continue to beat them with his arm? And, of course, he has that ability to run as well. So what do you think the keys are for Buffalo to get it done this weekend?
Hit the nail on the hammer correctly, Nick. They need to run the football because, look, even regardless of Patrick Mahomes or Chad Henne, I look at the Chiefs, for example. You have Clyde Edwards-Helaire, who's a really talented bat when he's healthy. And then I think a lot of people don't talk about him because he didn't really produce as much as a backup role, but Le'Veon Bell. I think that you need to find a way because this Kansas City pass defense actually did a decent job on Sunday. Tyrann Mathieu is going to be hawking in that secondary. So, compared to the last matchup, where Josh Allen got torched at home, they have to worry about Mitch Sorensen as well because he's also another ball hawk that's back there. So they need to try to establish a run game, especially clock management-wise, offensively in order to get it because you just can't rely on Stephon Diggs. You're going to need short passes to Dawson Knox, Cole Beasley. The running game, to me, is going to be the factor, Nick, that decides this championship game because look at what happened again in the divisional round against the Ravens. Offensively, passing, they weren't doing well because the Ravens secondary locked them up. You take away the Bills' passing game, and their running game was just as ineffective. The Ravens ran for 150 yards of total offense running the ball. The Bills only had 32 yards. That's the third lowest all-time in playoff history for any team in terms of running the ball. I'm concerned if I'm Brian Dable, the offensive coordinator, I got to find a way to get my two backs to get them, in clutch situations, be ready to pound the ball early and get them in because if Patrick Mahomes is struggling, he has Clyde Edwards-Helaire because the Bills' rush defense isn't that good. And then who knows what Le'Veon Bell could do. Maybe this is a redemption story for him. Obviously, when he was with my Steelers, he couldn't take them to the Super Bowl. So I look at maybe Le'Veon to be another difference maker. It just makes me concerned if I'm the Bills because you take away one dimension of them and it's just easy to expose them.
Yeah, definitely great points there. I mean, that's the thing that I think I was concentrating on a lot was Buffalo's not running the ball a lot at all right now. And you saw Baltimore was able to really stop them. If it wasn't for Lamar Jackson getting hurt or just the ineffectiveness in general of Baltimore, we could be looking at Baltimore and Kansas City right now. But, I'm very excited to see what happens. Obviously, if the Bills win, I mean, how many tables are going to get broken by these Bills fans this weekend? I think that there's got to be some betting odds on that, right?
Yeah, what's the over-under on broken tables this week?
Burning tables. How about that one?
That too.
The funny thing is that even at my job at Dick's Sporting Goods upstate New York, they got tables on sale right now in front of Bill's apparel section. So I would even maybe make a bet like how much the Dick's Sporting Goods might make off of the tables up in Buffalo this week.
Oh yeah,
that'd
that's
be a
gonna
big
be.
thing there.
It's going to be absolutely – we got to put the whole country, National Guard, all of it if the Bills win this weekend. But we're going to switch over to the NFC for a game that it's no secret that I'm excited for. It is the first NFC Championship game for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers in 18 years. I'm very excited for this one, a rematch against Aaron Rodgers and the Green Bay Packers. Robert, Green Bay comes in as the favorite. We're going to have very, very cold temperatures down in the teens, possible chance of snow. Tom Brady has shrugged it off, and so has Bruce Arians, Cam Brate, and a lot of the players. They've shrugged off the cold, saying it's mental. It's really not that big of a deal. Do you think it's going to play a factor? And if so, why? And who do you think is going to win this game?
Well, I mean, the Packers certainly felt that way against the Rams, that, the frozen tundra that is Lambeau Field, that is Green Bay, Wisconsin, at this time of year. They definitely think it is a psychological thing where people go there and they're just not ready for that type of cold. Especially, Bucks are from a similar climate winter-wise to California, where, Florida's not – it's cold here, but it's not, it's certainly not cold like Wisconsin cold, Canada close to the Canadian border. It's not that cold in Florida. So, they think that plays a factor. I don't know if it necessarily does or not. It's the same thing with altitude. I think that's more of a natural phenomenon with the altitude when you go up to Denver and play there. But, I think Green Bay is the rightful favorite here. I definitely think the Bucks have been playing a lot better the second half of this football season. They got rid of their demons last week against the New Orleans Saints. It seemed like the Saints all season, both times they played them, lost twice. It was like, oh, New Orleans can't beat them. And, I was kind of saying this before they played New Orleans. Where you beat them, where it counts, is in the playoffs. And if the Bucks can beat them in the playoffs, it doesn't matter how many times you lose to them in the regular season. So the Bucks did that. They held the New Orleans Saints and a pretty high offense to 20 points. So the Bucks are playing, much better defense. Much better offense. They have the weapons, Godwin, Evans, Brady, everybody knows that, Fournette. They got so many weapons that they can go with here that they do stack up pretty similarly to the Green Bay Packers. I think the Packers do have a better offense. I mean, Devontae Adams is playing out of his mind. Aaron Rodgers, oh my God. I mean, you want to talk about a guy having a renaissance right now, 36 years old, and he's doing this, probably going to win MVP this year. Aaron Rodgers is just amazing to watch, but it's Rodgers versus Brady, 40-year-old or 43-year-old actually versus 36-year-old. We'll see who comes out the victor here. I think it'll be Green Bay because of the offense. I think they will get to the Bucks defense. But the key for the Bucks, if they want to win here, is they need to get the takeaways, the turnovers that they got against New Orleans. They need to make Aaron Rodgers throw interceptions. They need to make Aaron Jones fumble. Not easy to do on either part, but they do need those turnovers. And I think it'll be close. I don't think it'll be a blowout either way. When the Packers did play the Bucks, it was, I think, a 38-10 win for the Packers earlier this season. But I think Green Bay will come out the victor. I said earlier, my prediction for the Super Bowl before the playoffs even started, I said Green Bay, Kansas City. I think I'll end up being proven right, hopefully. But yeah, I definitely think everybody wants to see Rodgers and Mahomes. But, I wouldn't mind Brady Mahomes versus in the Super Bowl. Wouldn't mind Rodgers, Allen, Brady Allen, whichever happens. I think everybody's just in for a great weekend of football. Probably one of the best in a long time.
Yeah, there's storylines out the gate here in this game. And for Tampa, like you said, they've been playing better defense. A lot of that's attributed to Todd Bowles and his scheme, playing man coverage against Drew Brees. And that worked, and that created 4 takeaways. And it's going to be interesting to see if Todd sticks to that. It worked against Aaron Rodgers in Week 5 and that 38-10 victory. But, Okelo, I'm going to come to you now for the Bucs side of things. On offense, we've seen Mike Evans disappear in a handful of games this year. A lot of that has gone to Tom Brady. He's not going to lock down one guy. And also, any type of cornerback that Mike is facing, that's a man corner and is one of the best in the game, a la Marshawn Lattimore, James Bradbury earlier in the year, or whoever it's been, the Bucs have been able to overcome that. And you saw that last week. He had 1 catch, 3 yards. Do you think they can overcome a game like that? Because Antonio Brown has not practiced this week. We don't know if he's going to suit up. Gronk's been taking on more of a blocking role. What's the key for the Bucs here to get out with a victory?
I said this on Tuesday with Whitley. It's the next man up mentality. They got a very good run game. Leonard Fournette has been stepping up big in the postseason. I don't think a lot of Bucs fans or a lot of people across the nation realize how big of an impact that he's had on this Tampa team since Ronald Jones has been dealing with his issues. So I look at it as like, you take away the weapons, you still have Chris Godwin, Cameron Braid as a second tier option. But I just think that the Buccaneers have a pound for pound offensively. If you take away their weapons, if it comes down to running the ball, they match up just as well with Green Bay. I think it'll just be important to see if Ronald Jones, gets through everything that he gets through. Hopefully we see back the Rojo that we saw at the beginning of the year. But Leonard Fournette has been doing pretty well. So if you can't stop the Buccaneers run game, if they need to run, because they showed, if you take away our airtime, we're gonna run the ball down your throat. They found a way to get it done. So you take away that, I think Leonard Fournette, Ronald Jones, forbidding he gets back healthy, that's going to be, I think, a key, especially when you're in the cold in Green Bay, muddy, snowy. You know, the passing game is going to be taken away somehow. So Leonard Fournette better get those snow tires, get whatever he needs to run through that, pound that rock through that Green Bay frozen tundra. That's going to be, I think, a key difference there. Even though Tom Brady's been playing well in the cold, I mean, obviously he played for so many years, how long in Foxborough. Playing in Green Bay is a different animal. So if they get their run game going, they'll be straight. They'll match up extremely well against Aaron Rodgers and company.
Well, I, for one, am excited to see what goes down. Robert, you said it's the best. You think it's one of the best we've seen in years. I agree, absolutely. Just great analysis there for what to look for both games this weekend, and then the Super Bowl in 2 weeks in Tampa. Also cannot wait for that. But stick with us, because when we return, we're going to jump back into UFC 257. It is McGregor making his return to the octagon versus Dustin Poirier, McGregor-Poirier 2. Stay tuned for more.
Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to HTF Bets. This is our final segment, and it is a very special one, as we are joined by our resident fight expert here at HTF Bets, Alyas Blanco. Alyas, how you doing, buddy?
I'm good. How are you guys? Good to be back.
Yeah, doing well. Good to have you back. Good to be back talking UFC. We have a huge fight this weekend. A huge fight for Conor McGregor as well, as he returns to the UFC for the first time since last year, when he fought Donald Cowboy Cerrone. Obviously ended Cowboy in, I think under a minute that fight lasted. I was all excited for it. It was right before COVID, at a bar waiting to happen, and, it lasts a minute, 2 minutes, and it's over. So hopefully this one lasts a little bit longer. We've seen this matchup before. It's not something we're used to seeing, as, most of these fights end up being, first-time fights. But we're seeing Dustin Poirier versus Conor McGregor for the second time. The second time they fought since 2014. It's been a long time, 6 years. I think that was McGregor's fourth fight in the UFC. So it's not, it's been a long time. He's matured. He's gained as a fighter. He's also, had his incidents. He's retired a couple times from the UFC. He's had, his lawsuit issues. He's tried to join boxing, fought Floyd Mayweather. A lot has happened in between for Conor McGregor. Lots happened for Dustin Poirier as well. He's 10-2 since losing to McGregor back in 2014. One of those losses coming to Khabib. So, everybody loses to Khabib. So that's not a shock. But we're going to talk about this fight a little bit. McGregor comes in as the favorite. No surprise, since he won the first fight. I think McGregor is the favorite in most of his fights, as well as he probably should be, even after a year out. But I'm going to go to you first, Nick. What are you seeing with this fight? Are you favoring McGregor in this matchup? Are you going with the bettors on this one? Are you looking at Dustin Poirier maybe getting some revenge here against McGregor?
I think this is a fight where everybody's going to overlook Dustin Poirier because it's Conor McGregor's comeback, but let's not do that. Let's not do that with Dustin Poirier. This is a guy who has beaten Max Holloway. He's beaten Anthony Pettis. He's beaten Justin Gaethje. He's beaten Eddie Alvarez. He's beating some former world champions here in those fights in between the last time he faced Conor McGregor. He's a much better and more polished fighter than the last time he fought Conor McGregor. Cannot be taken lightly, and I think he's got a great chance here against a guy like Conor McGregor, who has had a year off from UFC, which kind of seems standard at this point. I think he's only fought twice in the last 2-3 years. But I think Poirier is going to be the fresher fighter. I think Poirier is coming in here with a chip on his shoulder because nobody's talking about him, and I think that's dangerous. That's going to be dangerous for Conor McGregor. So I'm feeling kind of lucky, and I really am kind of leaning towards Poirier to kind of shock everybody. And I think after this one, then Conor's going to have a long looking in the mirror and figure out what he wants to do. But I'm feeling really lucky, and I like Poirier in this one.
Fair points, Nick. Fair points. Alyas, do you kind of agree with Nick there that McGregor not fighting so often is gonna hurt him a little bit here? Are you taking Poirier in this fight? Are you still taking McGregor? Where are you standing on this fight?
I definitely agree with Nick that the layoff is going to affect Conor because fighting, not being active enough, that does take a toll, and it kind of develops ring rust in the cage. You've seen it with a lot of fighters such as Nate Diaz. Even Rashad Evans is the biggest example, having that much ring rust, it kind of, deteriorates like your career and stuff like that. But honestly, I still see Conor McGregor being the winner in this bout because, in all honesty, Conor McGregor has the best stand-up in that UFC lightweight division. No one is as accurate, no one is as precise, and no one is as elusive as a striker as Conor McGregor. I don't see Dustin Poirier really handling him in the stand-up. That being said, the problem with Conor McGregor has always been his conditioning and pretty much his durability towards the later rounds. And that is Dustin Poirier's biggest strength, his toughness, his conditioning, and his durability. So this is what I actually say. If it in the first 2 rounds, it's in Conor's favor. But the last 3 rounds, that's where Dustin Poirier will have the biggest advantage. So if it goes from round 3 to round 5, I definitely see Dustin Poirier having a bigger chance to win. But I'm going with Conor McGregor.
All right, all fair points. And Okelo, we got 1-1 right here. Are you gonna double up on McGregor? Or are you doubling up on Poirier for this fight?
There's a reason I'm wearing the glasses and the suit, Robert. In the famous words of McGregor, who the is this guy? That's what I love about Conor McGregor. And, we all talk about the ring rust and things like that. We said the same thing probably last year going into the Cowboy fight. And he finished Cowboy faster than probably I finished one of my mom's cookings, less than a minute. Like, I think that Conor McGregor is going to come in, do business, take care of business. Now, granted, Dustin Poirier has fought in previous champions. This isn't a guy to be taken lightly than when you fought him in your first couple of fights. Obviously, you've won them both. But I think that for McGregor, the key for him is not to get overconfident. Obviously, like I said, 1 full year that he's last fought a full UFC match. Now, we all talk about conditioning and things like that. Don't think just because of the pandemic and because of him not at all on any of the match cards that he's been training. I mean, this guy has been keeping himself in the best of mint condition, where I think that you talk about ring rust. I think having that layoff helps you and it be able to feel it out. It's not going to be a fight where I think McGregor finishes as fast as a flash, but I think that he will get into it. It's going to be likely a 3-4 round fight in my opinion, but I think by round 3, McGregor's going to find his pace, find his balance again, and we're going to see Money Mac, the notorious MMA, come back on top and plant the flag back on top of Everest as one of the best UFC fighters of all time.
All right. So that's two for McGregor. Yeah, I'm gonna have to make it 3. I mean, I know not to bet against Conor because he always seems to prove people wrong when they doubt him. I know, obviously the Khabib fight's been the most glaring example of where everybody I think was a little bit wrong because Khabib pretty much mangled him like he does everybody else. But no, I mean, these are 2 guys that are great on their feet, and I mean this fight is mostly going to be on their feet. I don't see these guys going to the ground. We know Conor is terrible on the ground. No takedown defense too much. Not great on the ground. So this is going to be a stand-up fight. Both guys have knockout power. Dustin Poirier's last 7 of his last 10 fights in those wins have been from TKO or knockout. And it is in the later rounds, like Alyas was talking about, is a big factor with Poirier. So I think, as it goes into the later rounds, you definitely start swinging the pendulum towards Poirier, I think, because he does have that endurance, he does have that durability, and he can still, fight with the knockout power. But I think with McGregor, McGregor knows how to finish these fights fast. He knows how to beat Poirier already. It's been a long time. I think McGregor, when he does get in the gym, I think he's a committed guy, and I think we're going to see him probably end this in quick fashion. I don't think it'll be as fast as the Cowboy fight or the Jose Aldo fight, but I definitely think Conor gets this done in 1 or 2 rounds. And I'll make the rounds again. Nick, how many rounds do you see this going? Obviously, you say Dustin Poirier might pull out the victory here. How do you see this ending? Are you seeing knockout? Are you seeing decision? How long you see this going? How does this end?
Yeah, I'm going with Poirier in the 3rd round TKO. I know I'm going out on a limb here, but I'm feeling like making money this weekend, and this is the only way I'm really going to do it is by picking Poirier. So we're going to go with Poirier, and I'm just going to ride it high this weekend.
Fair enough. And Alyas, how you seeing this one end? How long do you think it's going as well?
All right. Okelo, I see that you have your glasses on, so I'm going to match you right now and bring up my glasses.
Hey, let's go, baby.
But I do see it. I do see it ending within the first 2 rounds. I'll say the 2nd round because you mentioned that Dustin Poirier does have a lot of TKO and knockout victories, but those knockout victories come with an amount of punishment that he puts on his opponents, and that comes in the later rounds. But with Conor McGregor, his finishes come with either one punch or precise shots. Everything's accurate. Everything's calculated with Conor. And I think that if he catches him with combinations in the first 2 rounds, I don't think we're going to see that durability of Dustin Poirier in the later rounds.
Yeah, absolutely. Great points there. I'm in full agreement with that. And Okelo, how many rounds you think this goes, and how do you think this finishes? Obviously, you picked McGregor as well. What are you thinking about this, though?
4-round knockout. McGregor's going to take it. But as we all mentioned with Poirier, but you know what? I'd like to mix it up a little bit. I know we talk about knockouts with both these guys, so I do see McGregor winning it. I'm going to say either by knockout or something that we don't see of McGregor. I'm going to say 4th round submission. I think that I'm going big to start the year off. Okay, it wouldn't be bet without me starting off big. I know submissions isn't really a high-strong thing in McGregor's game, but let's shake the boat a little bit. Let's stir the pot. I think maybe we're going to see something different of McGregor in this fight. Why not? 4th round, knockout or submission. But I might love it if I get a submission. I'm taking it big time on that one.
This might be one of your most outlandish takes, since you said Kirk Cousins was going to be a top fantasy quarterback. But you know what?
Oh my God!
It doesn't get worse than that.
It doesn't. You think that's not? I think that's worse than Kirk Cousins, to be honest. I don't know. I've never seen McGregor attempt to submit a guy, so I don't know. We'll see about that. I doubt this win ends in submission. But hey, I respect you. You riding high there, Okelo. But no, I have to agree a little bit.
I love tap outs. Y'all know I love to make an opponent quit than just knock out.
Oh, man. Well, yeah, I think it's going to end in TKO or knockout as well. I think McGregor wins this. I think it goes 2 rounds probably. If he's going to get the knockout victory, it's going to be within the first 2 rounds. I don't think this is going to go to decision. I'm glad we're kind of in agreement about that it's probably not going to decision. But, if McGregor does lose, it's going to be interesting to see what's next for him. And, Alyas, what do you think is next for Conor after this? If he beats or loses to Poirier, what's next? I mean, they've talked about him getting back into boxing, fighting Pacquiao. Maybe he gets that second fight with Khabib. Where does he go from here if he has a future in the UFC after this?
Well, the UFC is always better when Conor McGregor is active, of course. And depending on how the fight goes, we might see Khabib come out of retirement, because the announcement last week before the Max Holloway fight is that he was observing this week's main event to see if he's going to come out of retirement for that fight. So that's an option. But also, you have to look at the co-main event between Michael Chandler and Dan Hooker. This is Michael Chandler's debut UFC fight. And, he was a big part of Bellator's roster. So if he's able to beat Dan Hooker in that fight, he might stake his claim for a title fight or even a primetime fight against someone in the main event. And then another one that I would look at is Charles Oliveira. He had a meteoric rise in 2020. He beat Kevin Lee in the beginning of 2020, and then he dominated Tony Ferguson in December. So I would say those are a lot of avenues that Conor McGregor can take. And, I forgot, Justin Gaethje. We can't forget about the former interim champion. He is still the number 1 ranked lightweight in the UFC besides Khabib.
Yeah, absolutely. Great points there. Yeah, whatever happens with McGregor, I think this is still going to be a great fight regardless of who comes out the victor. Nick's going with the underdog here. I respect it. Okelo's going with the underdog as far as finishes go. But I think any way you slice it, somebody's gonna be betting the right way this week. And I think McGregor will come out. I think it's gonna be great to see him back. It's great to always see Dustin Poirier fight, because he is so tough. I mean, one of the toughest fighters in the UFC. So glad we can always talk UFC. I'm sure we'll be doing this again real soon. There's going to be plenty of fights this year, I'm sure, to talk about. This one's coming back from Fight Island, so there's plenty to come, I'm sure. Alyas, thank you so much for joining us. And to everybody, thank you for joining us as we kick off season 2 here at HTF Bets. We're happy to be back, and we'll be with you all season long. Stay tuned. We got some great stuff coming the rest of the season. Thank you guys so much. Take care.
Okay, now, from the beginning.
Hit it, boys.